when it comes down to the journey that you're on as a man to perform better, to have better sex, to have better relationships, to have a better career, all that sort of stuff, we get in this mindset and this idea and actually this fantasy of what it's supposed to be. And the sad part about this is most of the advice given on this is what helps create or maintain that fantasy. We hear things always like, you got to man up, you got to push your comfort zone. If you could just do this one thing, if you could get into state, if you could just force yourself, push yourself, or man up and all these different things, then we could finally make it work. Now, no doubt that success and your story of success and your story of, where you get to a certain point is going to have that in it. It's going to have all those factors of manning up, of pushing your comfort zone, of, pushing past the pain and so on. But the biggest part of that story, the most consistent part of it is really left out. And one of those components is letting go of those thoughts. We hear this over and over again. We're on a members call right now, and we did our check-ins, and there was a lot that had to do with I was really trying this. I was going out and talking to women. I was going out and trying this aspect of my life, and I wasn't getting it. And man, I don't know why I'm not consistent with it. Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I never have it. And we're always reaching. And really what we're speaking with there is an insecurity. In fact, that insecurity is showing us one of the greatest things that we need to work on, which is our beliefs. And when you think about it this way, and this is the biggest thing when it comes to coaching guys with women, is that there's this aspect that comes into play where if we're not able to approach a hot chick, or let's say we're not able to get sexual with a hot chick, we're not able to be a guy that can make it work consistently, we have some consistent beliefs. And these consistent beliefs fall into the place of man, I'm never going to get it. I'm not good enough. I'm not a man. I don't have what it takes. I don't have that masculine drive and all this other stuff. But having been a person who's been, a dating coach for 10 years, an expert with women, had all sorts of different relationships, had an amazing sex life, there are huge ebbs and flows with that. All right. And this confused the hell out of me, especially because all the other people that were coaching in this industry were not being honest about it. They weren't being upfront about it. And this is what I hate, man. This is really what I hate. There's too many people selling an idea of a fantasy and not talking about the reality. Because the reality of it is, and what it turned out to be for all of us, was this. We'd have some really good nights. We'd have some even really good weeks. We might even have some really good months every once in a while. But then we had times that there were down times where we did all the same things and it didn't seem to work. And part of the problem with that was that we made it too much of a big deal. We had to talk to hot chicks. We had to dominate in a certain way. We had to make things a big deal in order to perform rather than just have it be a normal experience. And at some point when I just said, fuck it, and I didn't say fuck it like, oh, fuck it, I don't care about anything. I don't care about the outcome. I'm just going to go for it. I actually said, fuck it to, man, why do I care about this stuff? I'm just going to do the things I want. I'm going to hang out at the places that I want to hang out. And at that time, I had developed a very high skill set of being able to talk, being able to sexually escalate, work logistics, to pinpoint different things, to read people better. And I had developed those techniques of that and spent a lot of time in the field of that. Man, it became the most effortless thing possible. If you want to actually hear, my process of it, 2006 to 2008, killing it, man. Had a ton of different sexual partners, a ton of pushing, a ton of being caught up in the excitement of it, of being, God, man, it was like I felt young. I had never had these feelings before. It was exciting. I never went to clubs before in my life and never liked them. And it was something that was just like, it was cool though, because I could make it work. Man, I had the right amount of adrenaline, tenacity, the newness of it, the conquest of it was just such a great thing. All these things that men talk about were the reality of my life. And somewhere in that 2008 time, it felt like, man, this is repetitious and boring. This is stupid. This isn't working. All right, what am I doing? What do I need to do more of? When I had these problems in that 2006 to 2008 period where I was killing it and I had some downtimes, I could push and get the result. I could push and make it work. All right, I'm going to do that again. And it stopped working. I wasn't motivated. 2008 to 2010, somewhere in between there, it was like, man, screw this. I don't give a fuck about anything. I don't give a shit about it. I stopped approaching people. And back in 2006, 2008, approached everybody, approached just, I don't know what it was, thousands of people. It was exciting for me, and I got a lot of lays. I got 40 different sex partners a year consistently. But then when it came down to that time after that, 2008, 2009, 2010, my approaches diminished way down. A huge drop. It went from like approaching a ton to just very little. And the thing is I may have had a drop in sex partners, but I had more sex and I had better sex. So let's say each year I had something like 25 or 30 sex partners that year. But then check this out, 2011, seriously, this is when I was like, fuck it, man. Everybody in the industry is lying about this. I start to get to know all the coaches. They're confiding in me about their struggles, and they're still advertising a totally different message. And I was like, wow. So none of these guys have really lived the sexual life. I can't believe it, because that's what I was, really living, and all the different things that came with that. And the thing that happened that was so fucking interesting is I just stopped approaching. I just stopped. 2011, man, I probably approached like 20 people, had about 20 to 30 sex partners, had amazing sex, had amazing relationships. 2012 just said, fuck it to approach. Why would you approach somebody? Why would I approach somebody with the idea that I'm going to somehow convince her to have sex? And I really started to formulate this idea. And this is what I want you to pay attention to. Sorry, it took so long to get here. But it started to be like, I'm just going to approach people because I want to talk to them. Oh, wait, this girl's attractive, and now I'm kind of allured by her. I'm curious about who she is. The situation's there. I don't need to try too hard. I'm just going to go and talk to her because I want to. And let's see what happens. And by then, back in that 2008 period, I had realized that approaching women and being sexual and like having good sex were two very different things. So that having a great sexual experience had less to do with how hot they were or what other people thought of them, but about my connection with her. And so then it became the social value of actually talking to somebody. And I don't mean social value and how popular they were, but the value of being social, the fulfillment of being social, and the fulfillment of being sexual. The sexual value had so much more to do with me being organic, being true to myself, being myself, and not making it a big deal. And see, this is that thing. When we wind into things like approach anxiety or social anxiety, and we wind up into moments where we have, let's say, sexual anxiety, when we peel away that onion, and it's not always the first thing that we see, it comes down to this. What builds and heightens and skyrockets that identity or that sort of anxiety is when we start to make it about, oh my God, I'm not a man, or oh my God, I can't perform unless I have this prize at the end. Whereas the road to excellence in your relationships and socializing and literally in anything, whether you want to make that about weightlifting, diet, martial arts, your career, your focus on your mental health and so on, is going to come down to the normalization of these things and the daily habits of doing them. Now, don't get me wrong. I needed to learn some technique. Remember when I was talking about that, 2010, 2011, 2012 period, I needed to learn technique before then in order for that to come to play. But we can do that. We have to see it though as a technique. We have to see it as, am I gaining consistency and getting to the points of, let's say, rapport? Am I gaining consistency and, let's say, getting to the points of intent? Am I able to sexually escalate in the different ways that we can do that? Am I able to calm down sexuality? Am I able to alleviate and build back up sexual tension? Am I able to have relationships and deal with those things? And we have to see those as separate from actually the consistent path of being able to exist within them, the inner game, the beliefs that are going to allow us to have like good sex lives and relationships and so on. And they're going to cross over a lot. I'll tell you right now, in things like having a relationship, being a husband, being somebody that is committed to somebody, these are things and new things that I'm learning as we go, that I'm experimenting with in the time that we do them. However, the different experience with relationships in the past all helps add up to that. And we have to see that as is a part of the process. I mean, I can't emphasize enough in so many different ways how important it is to be a part of a group of men that can talk about this, that can talk about it honestly, and to get back to that time where it's a normal thing. Having a great sex life, having a great representation of who you are, having a great career is all dependent upon having it be a normal daily action. We stop making it a big deal at some point, having it be a consistent action, and having it be the most normal thing that we do so that it's a pure expression of ourselves. So that when we have our losses, we see them as losses. When we have our failures and resistance, we see them exactly for what they are, and we don't tie into a bunch of this other thing, like these other beliefs of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or this is happening because, or what's the special magic thing that I can do. And anytime we are looking for that magic bullet, we have bought into a reality that is far, far from what happiness is going to look like, what expression is going to look like, and all the things necessary to actually make a functioning relationship and life work.